Welcome to the AI in L&D Weekly. Today, we're going to cover three main topics. Firstly, some specific tools. Secondly, states of AI in L&D reports. And thirdly, a couple of countries doing some big announcements about training. Let's do it. Okay, so these tools that I talked about, the main one is Canva's Creative OS. So if you're in L&D building content for presentations or LMSs, it's likely that at this point you use Canva. What started out as a simple application that seemed like no threat to the Adobe Creative Suite is now kind of the standard for people in learning, marketing, all sorts of worlds. Canva has slowly been introducing AI into their product. There have been things like magic retouch and background removal, image generation for a while. But now what they're kind of betting on, as a lot of companies are, is integrating AI deeply into their entire visual suite. So now what they're heading towards is moving away from building things from templates and moving towards generating layouts and images and videos and things like that with AI. So I can bring Canva into here. So in the Canva AI tab, we have generating images, creating animations, writing a blog, coding a game, building a color accessibility simulator, creating an animation, designing an ad. So basically anything you could have done in the Adobe Creative Suite, and I guess actually a bunch of other tools, they're now promising that you can do within Canva. So loads of potential here. I haven't actually tried this yet, but looking forward to getting stuck into it as I increasingly use Canva in my work as well. So I've set it off rendering some 3D character there, just using one of its default prompts. I will come back to that at the end of the show to show you. Okay, next have been tools. I've actually not seen this. It's not necessarily a new one, but Figma just acquired Weave, which is a kind of creative visual node-based editing tool where, if you can see the screen, you're basically patching together different sources and images and references and models and prompts to produce very distinct and deliberate imagery and video. So in the example on their website, they've got a 3D model built in Rodin 2.0, which they're connecting up with a color reference, which they have generated a fresh image in Stable Diffusion, and they brought in an image of a kind of a big raven-looking bird, added in a text prompt for how that bird should fly onto this model's shoulder. By model, I mean a literal human model. And then finally using Minimax Video to make that model move and bring that raven-type bird flying in and flying out. And it looks pretty amazing. I do a little bit of video work, so I'm going to give this a go. And then thirdly, in specific tools, Microsoft has added more agentic capabilities to Copilot in Excel. Here we go. So you can see agent mode in Word, where document creation becomes an interactive conversational experience. And instead of starting with a blank page, users can simply tell Copilot what they need. So what's happening here is they're trying to stop you from going outside of Word to go and chat with your LLM and then copy pasting that in, and they want that to happen within Word. And then with Excel, they have agent mode, which allows it to actually edit things in that Excel, create tables, create charts directly in there. Obviously, this is possible to an extent within Google Sheets through Gemini. And one of the things that I know people found frustrating about Copilot within the Microsoft suite is that it wasn't particularly powerful. So agent mode, give that a go, see how far it can get you. And that's the tools. Next up, I've got 3 big announcements, in fact, 4 big announcements from governments supporting training in AI. So first up is this huge US announcement that was premiered at an event at the White House, where they announced, through partnership with Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, $1.2 billion in pledges to prepare Americans for an AI-dominated workforce. So really interesting here that there's this kind of deep connection, of course, as there always has been, between these hyperscalers, as we call them, massive tech companies, and government, because, of course, the government needs these companies because they are the only ones kind of growing quickly in our stagnating economy in the West here. But also, this is obviously a huge problem for countries because a lot of jobs are going to be lost, and there needs to be some proactive work done to train people up. As we've heard over the last few weeks in this podcast, training is one of the next big things. I mean, it's the current big thing. There is 1.2 billion just been pledged here. I think this is huge for L&D. It's huge for our industry. We need to get ahead of the game and work out how we can help people learn this stuff. Because the UK as well, 3 tools announced to help businesses develop AI skills. So Skills England has announced 3 things: an AI skills framework, which talks about the technical and non-technical competencies needed at different job levels and roles; AI skills adoption pathway, which shows how organizations progress in AI adoption; and an employer AI adoption checklist, which bills itself as a pragmatic guide for employers, helping them to determine where training and support are needed. So with these 3 things, UK employers can see what skills they need, see how they need to get their organization from where they are to the future, and then just follow this checklist to see exactly what they need to do. So UK not investing quite as much, but really supporting organizations to take this kind of stuff seriously. And then Kenya as well has launched a national AI skilling alliance to build a future-ready workforce and boost innovation. So they're calling this KAISA, the Kenya Artificial Intelligence Skilling Alliance, and this is a national platform, as it says, designed to coordinate AI talent development, innovation programs, and policy collaboration. So a partnership between Microsoft, private sector in Kenya, public sector in Kenya, going really hard on supporting people to learn this stuff for young people, underserved communities, making sure there's a focus on ethical and responsible AI adoption, building an AI innovation hub, loads of stuff going on here. And then finally on this training, Google invests $2.85 million to strengthen South Africa's AI skills, education, and security. So lots being built out here. And in this South Africa example, it looks like the majority of Google's funding will go towards advanced AI education and research at the university and tertiary level. So for this, it's not just about upskilling kind of your ordinary workforce. This is about positioning South Africa as a space for deep AI research. And then a couple more things before we finish. In fact, I'm just going to end on these 2 reports. So, of course, the biggest report that we're all looking for every year is the one from Egler and Donald. Their report is called The Race to Impact, I believe. And a bunch of stuff came out of that report. Definitely worth a read. I will put a link to it in the notes. So just an article here from Open Sesame where they've interviewed Donald and Egler, and highlighting some things that came out of the report. So first one is that Donald talks about how qualitative data analysis has jumped from the 8th most done task by L&D people, only behind creating learning content, learning design tasks, administrative tasks, and researching subject matter. Of course, this is something I do a lot, and it's interesting to note that quantitative data analysis is still super low on that list. It's like 4th from the bottom, something that's still quite difficult to do with AI. And in fact, I kind of just build myself little simple applications to do quantitative data analysis. So could be another angle for some more development there. Egler and Donald talk about how AI is being used beyond just kind of building content, writing things, generating first drafts. And they say how L&D professionals are now engaging with it more interactively, seeking feedback, refining ideas, and exploring new creative directions. So it's AI moving from just being a kind of text generator to becoming a little bit more of a creative partner and a collaborator, I suppose, as people get more used to building custom GPTs for themselves, building custom workflows. This stuff gets more embedded into the work, and the use cases and the usefulness just increases. So check out that report. As I said, AI and L&D, the race for impact. They release this report, I believe, every 6 months. So check it out at donaldhtaylor.co.uk. And then finally, another report has come out, not as prominent or actually indeed as interesting as that one, but this is from chieflearningofficer.com, where they've released the 2025 State of AI in Learning and Development. This report costs £306, so I'm not going to buy that. But they're talking about, in their key insights, AI isn't replacing L&D, it's reshaping it. And this was the most interesting thing that they highlighted. Employees who receive more than 5 hours of formal AI training are 12 percentage points more likely to become regular users. So I know I'm absolutely banging on about this, but get people trained up on AI, because if you want to see the benefits of this stuff, you have to give people the skills to use it. You have to just be deliberate, give them the time, give them the space to play, invest in tools. And then, I mean, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but basically, I pretty much guarantee you'll get the return on investment. But you're not going to get the return on investment by just spinning up a bunch of Copilot licenses and seeing what happens, because the organizational inertia for doing things the way they've always been is too strong. So get training, guys. Get training, get experimenting. I'm off to play with Canva. Let's see this animation that we built. Like a kind of stop motion animation. Very cute. I'm going to get editing this, have a play with that prompt. Good luck out there, and I'll see you in a week's time.